Curtis is set with that. So with that, we'll call our meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight? If not, we'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda as
I
presented.
realize how important sleep actually is.
So
Yes, our mothers.
Okay, we have a motion supportably.
I know that from somebody, yeah.
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried. We have agenda. Roll has been taken. Is
Yes.
that true? All right. Next up would be Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we will entertain a motion for the approval of the July 28, 2026 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Support.
We have motion support. Are there any comments, questions, additions, or deletions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving right down to request for purchase. We are to consider a resolution to approve a request for purchase to Detroit Salt Company for the purchase of 200 tons of road salt at $65.89 a ton for a total of $13,178.
Move to adopt. Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Any comments or questions?
Just off the state contract, so that's in the packet there, and we were just talking about summer getting
Summer
away from us.
disappearing, yeah.
Summer disappearing, so.
Just had to reinforce that,
Yes,
didn't
you
you?
did, yes, you did, so.
Time to order road salt.
All those in favor? Say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Resolutions. We are to consider a resolution to ratify the investment of following city funds. Before us tonight, we have two CDs from 380, one at 385 and one at 415%. So, your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Last chance for comments or questions. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Next, consideration of a resolution to rescind approval of the planned unit development agreement at 319 East Downey. Also to authorize the city clerk and mayor to execute the related agreement for rescission on behalf of the city of Alma.
Move to adopt. Support.
And motion support. Any comments or questions? Want to give
Yeah,
background?
just a
or
quick background here. Yeah, this was a request by the owner. Planning Commission did extend the PUD 2 times. We weren't quite through the second extension. He was hoping that he could make this work. But since then, he's looked at possibilities of just doing single-family homes with the lots that are platted underneath on that parcel. So he's requested from the city commission, planning commission reviewed, and made a recommendation that the city commission adopt the agreement to rescind. And that's what is before you today. But it isn't like nothing's going to happen there. It's a bummer that we're not being able to head down this project, because I think it would have been a interesting
I think it was a good project.
for us all. So,
Yeah.
but having possibility of 12 more residential homes there is a positive.
Well,
as
it's
well.
better than none.
So,
Okay, anybody else have comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, we're to consider a resolution to approve the sale of property to Consumers Energy, which is for the Elma Armory substation, and also to authorize the city manager to execute all documents related to the sale on behalf of the city of Elma.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Got a motion and support. Any comments or questions?
just some background. Back on June 9th, the commission approved the option to amend the option to 10.84 acres. That was really to look at the shared driveway that was there and then needed drainage around there, so it was properly drained and water stays on site. The planning commission approved the split at the meeting on August 3rd. So this is the getting closer to the end for the next step, which is the closing documents and all of that. But as the mayor mentioned in the statement, this is for a substation, and this will replace the substation that will be decommissioned that's located on Mill Street.
Okay. Comments or questions? Here, I did have one. I'm just looking at that site on Mill Street. it's almost like there's two separate sites. Is this gonna replace both of those, or the
Yes.
whole, the whole
The
complex?
whole
there?
box is.
Everything they've got there is gonna go
Go
away?
away, yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried, thank you. Next, we are to consider a resolution to approve the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Development Project Agreement, which is for funding for the overlook deck at Riverside Park Pavilion. Also to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city of Alma.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Got a motion to support? Just
Yeah,
go background, or?
yeah, just a reminder, because it's been so long. We got notice of the grant back in September, October last year. We were told that we would receive the grant agreement in February. Here we are in August. The governor just signed appropriations about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. The grant, just a reminder, the grant amount was for $340,400, which is 74% of the overall project, which was $460,000. Our match for this project will be $119,600. And this will redo the overlook deck, take care of make a pavilion a useful pavilion, and update the site amenities at the park.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried, thank you. Next, reports of officers, boards, and committees. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. Before us tonight, we have the July Board of Review 2026 meeting minutes, the Parks Committee July 27, 2026 draft meeting minutes, the Alma Police Department July 2026 report, and the City Manager's report for tonight.
I'd like to pull Parks.
I'll move to receive one.
All right. Number one, the Board of Review minutes.
Do we want to receive three?
And three, yeah.
And
One
three? And three,
that.
okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion to
Support, thanks.
There we go.
receive 1 and 3 and support. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We receive roll 1 and 3. Okay. Drew, or who?
I did.
Oh,
I
wait.
did. I did.
Roger, you want to do parts?
Yes, if I may.
I'm going to make a motion to receive 2,
Okay.
and we can stand for 'em.
I'll move to receive number 2.
Okay, support. Now we have a motion to support. Thank you.
I just wanted to bring you up to date on some things and just to kick a couple of things by you. Parks and Recreation Department, whatever you want to call it, has had a terrific year. The things that they have done and the number of people that have been active in the parks and all of the stuff that has gone on in the park, the music in the park, the petting zoo, the pickleball that we're doing, all that kind of thing has just caused a lot of really neat attraction to the park. Also the day camps that we have had. What are the numbers on the day camps, Curtis? I think
We've been averaging between 50 and 60 kids a day.
yeah, which is terrific. It's it's really, really great, and it's offered people who may not have other. It's cheap babysitting, if nothing else, for kids during the summer. It really is, and it's a good thing. A major part of that has been the presence of lose her name.
Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan. Thank you. The presence of Morgan that we had as on a grant, and that grant is up the end of next month, and she will be going on to other things. The grant was for around $100,000, wasn't it, give or take?
About $100,000 a year. So
Yeah,
$300,000
$100,000 a year,
for the
right.
life.
And that is not in our budget to continue that. In discussion with the entire group 2 weeks ago, it was mentioned that probably a similar amount of good could come out of hiring somebody for just the summer, for 3 months during the summer. We don't need to buy a whole lot more equipment and baseballs and all that kind of thing. That's on site right now. But the thing that has made this work is having somebody there all the time overseeing it and running it. The thought was that it could probably be done for around $30,000 if we didn't have to spend it for the entire year and to get maximum use out of it. We still don't have $30,000. Coming up with ways to fund that, there are lots of possibilities. There's the pay-to-play kind of thing, which is a possibility. There's the possibility of getting sponsors for it. But one of the things that came up was the adding of similar to Friends of the Library, a Friends of the Park District. And that group could be a 501c3, and that group can do fundraising that our committee, because it's a committee of the city of Alma, cannot do. Most of the people, in fact, all of the people who are on that committee, I think, said they would be willing to become part of a Friends of the Parks. And that would just allow for some additional fundraising on the part of that group to help put this kind of thing through. I'm not going to ask for a motion or anything at this time. We have plenty of time to think about it. But I think the future of the Park District depends on continuation of the summer program. And that has been way too valuable an asset, I think, to just let die at this point. So I just wanted to put that out for you to think about. I think maybe if nothing better comes up, and is that the best solution? I don't know. But I thought I would bring it up to you guys just to think about it, and maybe in January or whenever, when it comes time to thinking about hiring somebody to do that as an intern or whatever, somebody intern from who's in a Parks and Recreation major from CMU or wherever. When it comes time to do that, I think maybe we should think about that. So anybody who has had anything to do with any of the park activities this past year knows what a fantastic job Morgan has done with that, and the addition of so many new things that we haven't had before, the disc golf, all of that kind of stuff that's going on. Pickleball courts. People have been screaming for some kind of action on the part of the city toward the Parks District. This next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be another major help to that. But I think I don't want to see this die. I really don't. So just put that in the back of your head, and if you've got a better idea, I'm sure we're all willing to listen to it. But just to think about the possibility of doing a Friends of the Parks. That's all.
I think that the Friends of the Park is a great idea. I have one thing just from my experience of summer reading clubs with the library, that it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Unfortunately, I have some concerns about if somebody was just going to, Morgan has done fabulous things, but I think it's been a whole lot of work. And so to maybe discuss with Parks and Rec Committee, that there would need, if we were hiring somebody to oversee it for the summer, that's one thing, but I think there's a lot of pre-work before you just come into the summer to make those things successful. And if you're going to do it,
very possible.
Yeah, and
6 months
Yeah,
might look better than that's
so I just
No,
was bringing that up
that's
as
a great
another
idea.
point of view, that
That's a great idea. That's
there's
what I'm looking for.
there's a
points to
long winter of preparation
Yes.
before you
Yeah, there
get
is.
to the summer
Yes, there
events,
is.
and so
No doubt.
and it'd be a shame to have it
flop because
flop,
of
or
lack
someone
of
who's set
organization.
up,
Yeah.
well, or because they just don't have the time, and because every other organization, if you were, not bringing people in necessarily, but they're booking the animal guy in December to
Mhm.
come for your event
Right.
in July, so
Yeah.
it is very necessary, and I think it's very valuable, and as it always comes down to money, but I think it might be more than.
You could be right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Just
you.
wanted to put
Thank
that
you.
on there. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Mhm.
Anybody else have comments? I guess I'd just like to add, Roxanne, I think you're absolutely right. I think it is, you can't just hire somebody for, come in on May 1st and expect the program to be, hit the ground running. But I also am aware that growing up, I grew up at a time in Elma when we had probably one of the best Parks and Recreation departments anywhere in the world, I would venture to say. We all the kids got in buses and went to Canada, and Canadians came here, and
Thank goodness.
the Can-Am games,
Yep.
and, you
Yeah.
know, the Parks and Recreation was all over town all the time. So I think it could do a world of good. I think we need that, and it's good to keep your kids busy
Right.
during the summer. It's good to have
Well,
things
and
for them to do.
25 years ago, when whatever that building was that was behind the library, I mean,
Right.
Noah would go to
Community center.
Lego camps,
Yeah.
and he learned how to cook. I mean, there were all kinds of things that they could, sign up
Yeah.
for and do.
So
back in
I
the
would
old
encourage you
days.
to, whatever form it takes. I think that
Mhm.
you got some great ideas on the table there, Roger, and your group, and others that probably have better ideas than I do, but certainly encourage it, and
Okay.
I'd be supportive of whatever we can
Yes.
do to
Okay, great,
do something for the kids. It's very important, so,
thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? Last chance? All those in favor of receipt of that report, or, yeah, I guess the report, the committee minutes, I guess it is, right? Say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no? Okay, the motion is carried, we've received that report. You have an interest in the city manager's report tonight?
Move to receive the city manager's report.
I guess you got it.
It's short,
Support.
and the big thing is what we're going to talk a little about parks. But first, primary election happened last week. Thanks to Sarah and her crew and all the volunteers. Can't say enough to all the volunteers and those folks who work the polls and watch the polls. And it doesn't work without them, so we very much appreciate it. And I know Sarah appreciates them very much, and she said so much in her memo to you, to give you kind of a quick synopsis. Just real quickly, the major votes across here for us, the senior citizens millage did pass overwhelmingly, 76.8%. The county Gratiot agricultural and economic development millage passed by a large margin, 66.6%. And then our partners in our Alma Fire District, Arcata, Pine River, and Seville Townships had their fire and rescue renewals, and all those passed 70% or and more. So, and those results I did attach to your newsletter, so if you'd like to take a look at those. And just a few short weeks, and we'll be in the next one. So,
No rest for the
Smile,
weary.
Sarah.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. And again, thanks, Sarah, and thanks to your crew
Thank
for
you, Sarah.
everything that they did that day. It just makes it, Sarah, simpler. But they won't have to worry about the little hiccup. Everyone was having hiccups across the state with people voting street ballots. That just, I don't know if they're just not teaching that in school anymore, but we have a street ballot system for the primaries, and we had a lot of spoiled ballots. But I was reading some articles across the state, and that was happening everywhere across the state. Spoiled ballots for people jumping across the ballot. So anyway,
Clearly, people want to be able to vote.
Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah,
Independently
yeah, be
for either
great.
parties. I mean, I'm one of them. I would like to be able to vote for who I like on the ballot either way, and it is a publicly funded election. Seems like we should be able to vote for whoever we want. That's
the
my 2
rules.
cents
That's
for
the
it,
rules,
yeah.
but that's the rules, and
You're not gonna change it for me, though.
No, we got bigger fish to fry. But like I said, talking to our election folks, just explaining it to them right off the bat as they come in, because that just seemed to be the articles I read. That would seem to be the clerks there saying the same thing. It's just like, I just need to inform my folks working the polls. It's like, hey, just explain it to them right off the bat, do not assume that they know it. And some people just
Can I
say,
ask a
just do it.
question?
Do it anyway.
It seems to me 1,000 years ago, when I voted in the city of Chicago, that you got either a Democratic or a Republican ballot when you walked in the door. Is that part of my real memory, or am I making that up? Or could that have
For a
happened?
primary.
For a primary? Yeah, for a primary.
We do it that way.
Yeah, okay,
But I can't speak to that because I've only been here for so long, but
Yeah.
I don't recall that.
okay. I don't know whether
It seems like a great idea.
Yeah.
Would make life easier.
The only trouble is you have to declare that publicly when you walk in the door then, and say, I want one
That's
of
the
the other.
downside,
Yeah, and that's all
The
right.
simpler solution is just let me vote who I want to, for whatever office it is. And be done with
Or pay
it.
attention to the instructions that the workers are giving you
No,
very
that is
clearly
way
when you
too
come.
much, Rox.
I know, and you can see people just,
Never happened.
Registered with a party
That
to
is
be able
true.
to do that,
Right.
so some states, that would be the case.
That would be
you
the
can
case.
see people just
Yeah.
glaze over when they're, I
So
mean, they were
it's
very clear.
501 and 10 the other, and it just comes down to following
Yeah.
the rules that we all are have to live by. And then when we get to the general election, guess what? Yeah,
Free for all.
you can jump all over wherever you want. Just don't vote for more than one and when it tells you not to. 'Cause
I'm sure there's plenty of people
that
who do that
happens
as
too.
well.
That happens too. All right, the main attraction for tonight, talk about Splash Pad. We have a draft agreement that has been developed, and I just wanted to get that in front of you. I sent that back over to Tim Duhaney last week at the county, so they're not done with their review either, but just wanted to get that in front of you because we talked about it, back in April of this year, and we try to incorporate everything in there that we discussed and discussed subsequently from that meeting. We think we got everything covered in there, but wanted to have your eyes take a look at it and see if there's anything that we may have missed. So from there, was there anything that you saw that that we should address from your perspective as the commission, or did we pretty much hit everything? And then we'll wait to hear back from the county. And in the meantime, though, there's been a lot of activity in the background, and Tim Lambert sent me over, he's the chair for the Gratiot County Parks Board, and he sent me over some slides of kind of some things that have been happening, and I invited Tim to come and talk a little bit about that and the actual logistics of what's going on behind the scenes, not just agreements. So
You can control it with the space bar or with the arrows.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Lambrecht,
Oh, Tim.
Chair of the Parks and Rec. I brought Sam Smith. He was the vice chair, and of all people on the board, he's probably been as adamant and as much of a force in getting this through all the hoops we've had to jump through as anyone. Plus, he's my muscle. And also, yeah, and he laughed, which has been known to put people in the grave. So. Anyway.
I brought the comedian.
Right. So,
It costs extra.
just to give you a little background, because I've spoken with some of you, because I know many of you, and I've spoken with some of you individually, and some of you have heard other things, but just so we're all on the same page in terms of like where this came from and why. So this has actually been part of the Gratiot County Parks and Rec master plan, our last 5-year master plan. And you know, we've been talking about splash pads at Parks and Rec for, you know, at least 5-6 years, right? And you know, one of the things that many of us felt didn't make as much sense was putting a splash pad in Reed Park or Hubshire Park. Not that it wouldn't be used, you know, those parks are heavily used. There's people out there right now at both parks enjoying the parks, probably in the water, but they already have water, right? And one of the things that's always been an issue for me, and I've actually been on the Parks and Rec board every year except for one, I believe, since the millage started in 2004, was that, you know, we have beautiful parks, they're great attractions for our county residents, but most of our county residents have never been to one of our parks. And in fact, they're also heavily used by out-of-county residents. And we don't really get any economic benefit for that, because nobody goes to Reed Park and then says, well, let's drive up to Ithaca, you know, and get something to eat, because they're coming from the south and they're coming from the east. Or let's go out to Hubshire Park and then drive into Elma. And this sadly doesn't happen. And it's one of the reasons why we started charging out-of-county residents, actually, a number of years ago. But this was something we wanted to do. And you know, as we started the grant program and tried to figure out ways, and I was also part of the meetings with all of our municipal leaders about, you know, how can we better serve municipalities in terms of resources, that this seemed like a logical next step. You know, why not put a splash pad in a municipality, right? I mean, splash pads are incredibly popular. In fact, I think, you know, this is the hottest summer, you know, on record right now. We just heard, you know, July was the hottest month, continuous lower 48. And probably the problem we would have is the number of people wanting to use it, right? I mean, it wouldn't be a problem of disuse or misuse or no use. It would be a problem of, you know, everybody wants to get into the bucket. So, long story short, we reached out to the major municipalities, and Elma expressed the most interest, right, with reservations, which were legitimate reservations. And Sam and I have learned more about splash pads in the last year and a half than you know, I could tell you. We went through a process, we looked at contractors, and you know, the contractor that we have is the largest splash pad installer in the United States. So we're very confident with them. They're the only contractor that actually makes what they install in their own factory. They have a factory in New York. They have a factory in Canada. Their corporate is based in Canada. And so while we were talking to municipalities, we were vetting contractors. First contractor we thought was a go, turned out not to be reliable. And so we went with actually a contractor that we thought might not want to do our project just because our project is relatively small. The contractor, Vortex, they do Disney's, they do Legoland, they do resorts, but they also do, they've done Howell, they've done multiple splash pads in the city of Detroit and the city of Grand Rapids. And so they were willing to do ours. You know, the big idea behind putting it in a place like Wright Park, and Wright Park is the ideal place for a splash pad for a bunch of reasons. One is it's obviously in the largest population center in the county. You know, so in terms of access, it's the easiest one for more people to use, right? Another is that the issues when people install splash pads, even in existing parks, are bathrooms and parking. You know, so when you see a price tag, when a similar community does a splash pad like the one that we're proposing, it's a $1.2 million project because the splash pad's $400,000, but the bathrooms are $500,000 and the additional parking spaces are $300,000, right? Well, in Wright Park, we've got brand new bathrooms, we've got pavilions, we've got all kinds of parking. So it's really an optimum location. And then the other thing is, you know, and there's tons of research on this, splash pads draw visitors. The biggest park in Saginaw Township added a splash pad, and their visitor count went up by the tens of thousands every year by putting that splash pad in. It was already their most popular park, but it became even more popular because people want to go to the splash pads, right? And so that was kind of the motivation. And, you know, I want to thank, you know, for those of you who haven't been kind of in tune to this, you know, Eric and Greg spent a ton of time in meetings, on site, you know, and messaging, trying to both make sure that the city's needs were met, but then also, you know, keeping an open mind to try and get this thing to the finish line. What we're proposing is a land lease for the property. This is something that's not new for us at Parks. We were approached by a township, Sumner Township, years ago about using their township land adjacent to Hubshire Park for potential trails. It was an old dump site. And so we researched what it took to do a land lease, and it's kind of like, no, this is very common, you know, it's very common in the private sector, but it's also very common amongst municipalities. And the idea would be that the city of Elma would simply lease us the land, you know, for $1 for, I believe, 25 years with the renewable 25-year term. Under the agreement, Gratiot County Parks and Rec will pay to install the project and to maintain the project. The city of Elma is responsible for water and responsible for electricity. The maintenance of the design that we're using is actually pretty minimal. And I know one of the questions, and it was a good question that was raised, I think, in previous discussions by your board, was, well, what happens if the millage fails, right? What happens if, like, the county can no longer maintain the splash pad? Well, it's a big if. You know, you're just talking about millage passages, and I didn't go back and look at all of them, but again, I've been on the Parks and Rec board every year except for one since the millage first was passed in 2004, and I don't think we've ever had less than 75% in favor of passing the millage, which has always been kind of surprising to me because a lot of people don't use the parks, right? But Elma always passes the Parks and Rec millage. They may not know it's just for Gratiot County, right? Because again, this is kind of like the voting on both sides on the primary, right? But the bottom line is, historically, that's not been an issue. The other good news is we do have a fund balance. Now, it will be smaller. But the real backstop is Gratiot County Parks and Rec is part of Gratiot County government. It's not like Greater Gratiot Development, where it's kind of a contracted thing, or MSU, 4-H, you know, that's not it. And because of prudent management and energy projects, you know, the county also has a decent fund balance. And so what would happen if the millage didn't pass is parks would continue on. We've got about a year runway before our money runs out, and we try and pass another millage, right? And then at some point, what would happen is the county would have to decide, well, do we want to use our fund balance to maintain the parks, or at what level? Of all the things that we have in the parks, the splash pad is probably, quite frankly, the least concern, because it requires so little maintenance. Now you think about parks, right, where you got, you know, acres to mow, and you've got bathrooms to maintain and things like that. You know, one of the things that we learned about researching splash pads is splash pads, especially this one, doesn't really require a whole lot of maintenance. Because it's a flow-through design, it does not require somebody to go and test water every day or change filters or anything like that. I mean, it's kind of like you turn it on, you turn it off, but it's not even a switch, because we will have an app and the city will have the same app, and you will have the ability to decide when it runs, how it runs, how many of the features you want running at any given time. And so even when it comes to, you know, really the only ongoing cost, which is the variable cost of water and electricity, you control that, because, you know, if you feel like we're using too much water, well, then you just reduce what happens when somebody runs over and hits that button, right? Because you can make, when somebody hits that button, everything can come on, right? And you can make it when someone hits that button that this section comes on, and they got to go back and hit the button again to make that section come on. And then eventually, if they hit the buttons enough time, that's maybe the sixth time, everything comes on. But that's all under your control. It's pretty cool. It's also designed to make kids move instead of just sit under the bucket and get dumped on all day. But that's kind of the genesis of both where it's coming from and how it will work. And again, if we take the extreme situation, well, all right, the county runs out of money, the parks run out of money. Now what happens? Well, yeah, a couple things would probably happen. You know, it's quite easy to take the things down if you have the theft-proof bolts for the covers that house the bottom. Because we asked, did we take these things down? Like, is there seasonal maintenance? And they're like, no. You can do it, but you don't want to do it, right? I mean, they're not designed for that. They're designed to stay outside all day. You know, it's solid brass, it's powder coat, it's stainless or galvanized. This is like the best of the best. You're getting the Cadillac here, so you don't need to worry about stuff breaking. But I'm sure if that were to happen, we could take it down and put it on the municipal bid system, and somebody who's got one leg would probably gladly buy our spare parts, right? But I just don't see that happen. And quite frankly, before that happened, I would guess that somebody would be willing to step forward and say, hey, you know, if the dump bucket breaks, I'll write a check. I mean, because quite frankly, I would be that person. So I don't think there's a big concern. It's a good concern. But because the maintenance just is not an issue, it's just really not an issue. Like, I mean, there's much more maintenance to maintain the trails, you know, in our parks and the wood bridges, right, than to maintain this thing. Hit it twice. So that's the aerial view of Wright Park, just to kind of give you a sense of where it's going to be. I think you might have seen this before, but you can see there's the playground, there's the bathrooms, and the splash pad is right in between those. And what's great is you've got parking along behind the Catholic Church and behind St. Mary's. You've got parking to the west. You've got parking to the east. The restrooms are right there. It's just a really, really good location. You're a block and a half from your central business district, right? And you stop me anytime if you have any questions, because I'll just keep yapping. That's the design. The colors are a little different, slightly different than that. We picked a color palette that matches the playground equipment that's already at Wright Park, so it's essentially primary colors plus green and white. Red, yellow, blue, right? Those are probably red, yellow, blue, green, white. That's the color. That's the color palette that we'll have, but that's what it will look like. And the way these are designed is like this end, the stuff that comes out of the ground, that's like all ages, right? That's if you got a 2-year-old, they can do that. You know, the dump bucket, the stuff's in the middle is like for bigger kids. You know, the little rings that you can run through, anybody can do that, but it's actually designed with some intentionality in terms of who goes where and what people are attracted to based on age. I know you can't read this, but if I remember, I think there's about 22 features in total. You know, between things that spray up out of the ground, circle hoops, you know, the big dump bucket, the little dump buckets. There's 22 features. If you look at that, it says 24, but 2 of those things are drains. That's nothing really exciting.
Yeah,
don't say that playing.
My kid would have found the drain interesting, actually, you know.
Yeah, they will.
Blocking that will be a feature.
Yeah.
They're gonna try to turn it into a swimming pool.
So where are we at? Well, now the ball's in your court, right? The county commission has approved the expenditure. And, you know, there was a question about, you know, well, could the city do X, Y, and Z? Like, for example, could the city do the excavation? The contractor asked us that. And, you know, the city's got plenty of projects. You know, Dave and Eric and staff made it clear that, you know, that wasn't a thing. And actually, I think that's a good thing. I would just as soon have the contractor do everything, because my experience is then there won't ever be a question about, well, you know, why isn't the water running out properly? And, well, you guys didn't excavate it properly, right? You know, and it's like, no, you're doing it all, and then the warranty is pretty straightforward. Right now, the equipment is in the August production queue, so it's being made this month. And expected delivery is October. When we originally were working with Vortex, we were thinking, you know, if we were really hoping for a Labor Day soft open. That didn't happen, but we've waited our entire lives for a splash pad in Elma. We can wait until the spring, I guess. But the idea would be we'd be looking at Memorial Day weekend. And then really the final step, and there's probably the other piece, just FYI, that we'll be doing, you know, we're funding what you saw with the exception of the benches. That is not part of the plan. We will probably write a grant, you know, for Gratiot Community Fund. I'm the past president of the Gratiot Community Foundation, and though I'm not on the allocations committee, but I know this is the type of project that typically the Community Foundation eagerly supports, especially if they can get their names on the benches and let people know that it's done by this. And so that's probably the final piece. Someone asked, well, how about if somebody wants to, there's stuff you can get, you know, there's cooling, there's a solar powered cooling thing. That's kind of cool. Once the city, assuming the city approves the land lease agreement, we know we're going, and then if somebody comes forward and says, well, hey, I'll pay 40 grand to get put the cooling thing up there, then we can do that. But we did not want to make this a bake sale, you know, fundraiser, let's someday raise enough money to build this thing, we're just gonna do it. But then there's kind of a standard set of rules for these things. Now, obviously, they're self-policed, like just about anything like this, whether it's a skate park or a trail system or whatever, but it's just, you know, like the things like no glass, swim diapers, no running, you know, I'm sure that one will be an issue. But it's really posting for as much as information as it is for, again, we're not going to be busting people for things, right? But it's just to maintain order amongst chaos. Questions? Sam, anything to add?
Just a couple things. Maintenance of it, basically, these are all screw-in fittings for the spray jets and stuff like that. They're all made in brass, made by this company. They build this stuff for cruise ships. They're the ones that have them on cruise ships. The other thing is that with maintenance, if some reason the city ended up taking it over, I would see that you would never do any more than you're doing now is to provide water in that. Maybe have to go wash it or something. The drainage in the wintertime, everything runs to a bottom. It all drains out. You open a valve up. There's no pressurized to drain it out for the wintertime. We talked to them about Carson City takes their park down, take a couple of their high things down. They're not sure why they do that. We talked to them about this here. Everything drains just with a valve. You open it up. There's a tool to do that. Everything is just all the water runs out of it, so it just stays there. Probably the only thing it breaks on, it'll be in this box, would be a computer type of operation where we run this off an app. Not me, but you guys run this off an app about how the water runs and all that type of stuff. And in drainage, as Tim said, there's no, the water that we're putting in it is water that we drink here, so it's not a problem at all. I think it's going to be a pretty easy project, and I think it'd be great for the community.
The original contract we worked with, they do the shutdown is very much like what you do with like your sprinkler system, right? Because you got water in the pipes, and so you drain them out. And we asked about that, and they're like, no, it's like, that's the Joes, we're the pros. We engineered the drainage system with like a 2-degree drop with gravity, because they do, again, huge ones, right? They're not people at Disney blowing out lines, I mean, that's just not a thing, right? I mean, and so it's like, it's certainly a system, it's got a warranty, if there are problems, but the fact that they make them, everything is backwards compatible, so if you want to, like 10 years from now, we say, well, we want a different thing, or the dump bucket's not dumping anymore, and now we want the whirly gig whatever. It's like, that's fine, it works. They've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah, 35 years.
30 years. And stuff they put in 30 years ago, they can still retrofit. So.
What is the surface?
Surface is concrete. So the surface is concrete, and that's standard, right? And in fact, let me go back to this drawing, that might be helpful. So to give you an idea, so the radius of the inner circle is 50 feet. And then that's a 5-foot kind of, they call it like the entryway that goes around that. And so it's 60 feet. And again, it's just ideal. We were at the site, as was Greg and Eric, just kind of eyeballing different places for this. It's just a really, really good site in terms of there's plenty of room, but, playground's right next to it, the bathrooms are right there. There's multiple pavilions. I mean, it's just really a good site. It's hard to imagine, quite frankly, a better place for this. I could envision one, for example, in Ithaca at Woodland Park. That'd be a good place for it, but it's not as good as Wright Park, just for a bunch of reasons.
With concrete, how do you manage the balance between not being too slippery and not scraping your elbows off when you fall?
Yeah, and this is, I think, one of the advantages of working with somebody, who's done hundreds of these, because I was kind of wondering, I've been to a lot of splash pads, and some of them have a rubberized surface, and the problem with that is it wears out, right? Because people are running on it. It also impedes drainage. It just makes things much more complicated. And what you see now is nobody does that. But the thing is, it's really not a whole lot different than any type of paved area, right? It's no different than the playground at, Luce Road School or Pine Avenue, right? It's just, the kids are running around chasing each other, and somebody falls down, they fall down, but kids are durable.
And I can tell you the one at Carson City, my grandkids, we've taken them there a number of times, and it's like a concrete, and it's almost like a sidewalk. Mm-hmm. It's almost like water running on a sidewalk. It's not slick. I've got some cement that's high polish that you just slip on, but it's almost like just like a sidewalk. It seems to me like that.
It's got a surface.
It's not roughed up.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Even like the outer is a little different. Now again, I don't know exactly what they do, but
Well, they're experts and they've done several of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've had hundreds of them.
And most swimming pools have the cement
Right.
deck around them. And
Yeah.
it's the same.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. It's kind of it's kind of the same thing. It also one of the things that and we've made great strides in the parks in a bunch of ways. Certainly what Roger was talking about these past 3 years with Morgan, but in terms of increasing accessibility and things like that. And I mean, that's one of the things that Vortex stresses is this is highly accessible. And it will be accessible, from the parking lot. And so,
But Tim, one thing we didn't get in our conversations in depth about was, and I see here it's showing, I believe, one button to push to turn things on.
Yes.
As far as a water usage, that kind of concerns me. That I was thinking it'd be like you said, there's different age groups and maybe 3 different buttons for 3 different sets of features.
Good question.
To save on water, so that if you get older kids there and they want the big dump bucket, they don't have to turn everything on. You press it 3 times to turn it all on.
Right.
And we got all this stuff running because there's only older kids.
There's so the app gives you a whole bunch of options in terms of programming flow. And so this is zoned. And so again, one common way that they do this is somebody hits the button and it goes on over here, right? And it will go through the cycle. Now, cycles are short.
And you set those too.
Right.
You set the cycle, how long
Right.
you want to run.
And then again, if you have it on the rotation, then you hit the button, and then maybe the next thing that's going is this. Now you can also have the dump bucket always going, right? As long as somebody hits a button. They're just, part of what would be interesting is just, what you want to do with it. Because, to me, it's kind of cool that you can do all these things. So I think it's going to be trial and error to a large extent. Now, they actually, the Vortex model actually uses, because of that, generally if you set it up on kind of I don't want to call it the minimum settings, but kind of the rotational settings, it's actually going to use less water than, say, a 3 or 4-year-old splash pad that didn't have the functionality that just kind of automated through a system, right? And so if you think about the numbers we looked at, for water use, we should be below that if we put on kind of like, we just kind of want to do the minimum stuff, right? As opposed to, say, the pad at which is the same size that I mentioned at the Saginaw Township Park. They have everything running all the time. It's just on. It's just on because they get enough visitors, and it's just such an attraction that it's like, you know what, this is worth it to just have the thing on. Because if I remember, I think they're paying $50,000 a year or something, $60,000 a year in water, to run that thing, because they had everything on pretty much all the time. Now, again, because you have control over it, I think there's a lot of things that you can do. For example, I know, St. Louis Pools, for example, people sponsor like days at the pool.
Yeah.
Don't you do that?
I do.
And you could sponsor day at the splash pad, right? We could have a little board, and it's today, splash pad sponsored by whomever, right? If we want to do that. I mean, if we get to the point where we say, man, we're using a lot of water. The electricity is pretty non-existent because there's not like big pumps pumping water through. It's just water pressure. It's just gravity. Really, the electronics are just the switches, right? To control where water goes. But I don't think we'll have a huge issue with that because we have it under our control, right? I mean, and it's kind of the same thing where you're also going to be able to set the parameters of when you want the thing to operate. Now, you think about the last couple of heat waves we've had, that might be something where, we say, you know what?
Turn around.
Yep.
Or maybe you start at 8 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, it's still light at 10 o'clock at night. We're going to run it Friday and Saturday to 10 o'clock at night, or
Right.
Tuesday and Thursday, or whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can adjust those times.
Again, I think once this is here, it is going to be such an attraction that I think you'll have people asking you, quite frankly, like, say, Sam Smith, hey, don't you have a new funeral home in town? Hey.
Well, there's a balance between, saving water and minimizing the short cycles or whatever, and not having it on long enough to make it attractive.
Exactly.
I'm taking my kids there, and there's been another time I pushed the button. So there is a balance here. That's why I was thinking,
Right.
if there's multiple buttons for different areas, maybe.
Yeah, no, they do not do the multiple button thing. Even unless it's a really big park. Part of that, because we asked about that,
Yeah.
and part of it is this is designed for, they call it active play. I mean, they got physical education people who design these things and think about stuff, and it's not just the idea is that you're just gonna sit under the bucket and just sit there, right? It's like, no, you gotta go over and hit the button, right? It's,
You know, I just want to sit there.
then you gotta make one of your friends go over and hit the button. Hey, go hit the button.
Here,
I'm just gonna sit here and hit the button.
It's right there,
It's right, right?
Give me a dollar and I'll.
But my
Greg,
gut,
you get the code and you go do it.
you know, my gut is, we're gonna probably rely on the contractor, right? To say, you know, here's kind of what we're thinking for what we want for water use. What do you recommend we do? And that's where we're gonna start, right? And then we're gonna see what our water use is, and we're gonna see if we like that, if it's enough, you know, and I think it will be a little bit of trial and error. But, you know, the great thing about it is, again, we can turn on more things, we can turn off more things, right? We can run it from 11 to 6, we can run it from 10 to 9, right? And it's not going over there and twisting a wrench. It's something that's just opening up your app and just saying, you know, so it's kind of like, you know, farmers market days, maybe we do it for longer or shorter or long, you know, or again, you know, Friday splash pad night, right? You know, I mean, or when we have things going on downtown, you know. That's the other thing you can do though, you know, I mean, if we're doing something where, you know, people from out of town are in, we can crank up, we can make this thing look like the 4th of July, right? I mean, we can have water gushing all over the place. And it's just, you know, again, it's pretty cool in terms of what we'll be able to do with that. I mean,
That's a great idea. The other thing that we've talked a little bit about, and not with you necessarily, but the access to it as far as the sidewalks, and when we're talking about seeking grants, I mean, that parking, there's lots of parking there. Unfortunately, a lot of it is dirt and gravel. It's not ideal for this or anything else for that matter, quite honestly. But, and then there's also the matter of sidewalks getting to, from between the restroom and this thing, and between the parking lot and this thing, and back to the other playground. There should be, I mean, ultimately we need to think about all that as well.
Yeah,
it's a great
absolutely.
project. I'm very much in favor of it and appreciative of you guys bringing this opportunity to us.
we have budget, I think, you know, we have in our budget to have sidewalk from the pad to the restrooms. We probably, and we'll just have to see how close we are.
Talk about dollar wise, there's a pavilion up there too, you know,
Yeah.
or come back to the,
Which should be connected as well.
Right.
connect to that
Yep.
sidewalk that you have there, you know, I mean, there's some opportunities to see where we're at dollar wise, and once you're, you know, put
Right,
it down.
exactly.
Yeah, ideally we do it all at the same time, so we're not digging and
That's
digging.
right. Oh, yeah.
And we allowed, you know, the good thing is, and, you know, Rosemary Horvath asked, were we affected by the tariffs? And no, we actually got in the queue early enough where we weren't. And a lot of this stuff might be made in New York too, but, you know, we've done enough building projects where we know you allow for extras. I mean, the install costs are hard numbers. I mean, we have a final bid, we've got money for things like sidewalks. And so, you know, when, in fact, we've got a meeting with, when the contractor comes on site, you know, that'll be one of the things that we look at. But you're right, Greg, in the sense that, you know, for example, the west parking lot, you know, that's pretty rough, right? But in terms of grant attractiveness, you know, it's already a fairly attractive grant because, you know, the playground gets a ton of use. You know, we've been over there 3 times now.
Yeah.
And every time we've been over there are tons of people using that playground. But now with the splash pad in the playground, right? I mean, and you know, we can count, right? We can keep track. We've done that in our other parks. You know, we count visitors. You know, we know how many people come and go. And, you know, we can do that, we can get some numbers, and then when we say, hey, this is how many people are coming, it makes the grant probably more attractive, right? Because we've just got more assets in the park. So, but you're absolutely right. I mean, that would be the next step, right? Would be to improve the parking area there. Because, you know, regardless whether you're getting a splash pad or not, it would just be nice to improve that parking area.
Anybody else have questions or comments, or?
Have we worked through any of the land lease wording or details in terms of what it would look like? In
I
terms
think
of
we've reviewed it individually. I don't think it's been any,
Okay.
if there's concerns or if you, I don't know, do you have a deadline that you need it signed by? I don't know if we do.
Right now we have the draft is in front of us, and on the lease agreement, I think we just put in there, Tim had sent over, still hanging on Tim, but Tim had sent over, and they're like October 1st of 2026 the lease would start or commence, so you have some time to take a look at it and and see if there's anything that should be in there or whatever, so, yeah. It's pretty extensive right now. I think we covered everything, I think.
Yeah, I mean, between your end and again, we've done this before, and there are other models, you know, and you know, Tim was very helpful. One of the holdups was just the vendor issues, and you know, so we suggested he use a sole source agreement, which we were able to do, and so that expedited things. But yeah, I think everybody's interest is covered in this.
This lease, and I've seen it briefly, and then I think there's been some adjustments to it, but like things that I didn't even know until I was a county commissioner years ago was that the county leased the dog place from the
That's
city of
another good
Ithaca.
example.
And it was the same type of a lease. And then they just bought it here, I think this past year, but they leased that building for years there. And the lease that we have out at the park, so it's, you know, I'm sure you gotta have little adjustments here and there.
But and the other good thing is it is a lease, right? I mean, and leases can always be negotiated. Now it takes two people to agree on something. For some reason, 15 years from now, the city says, you know, we want to take over the splash pad because we got this other plan. We're gonna add this other thing, and then we're probably not gonna fight you for it, right? I mean, but that's just, you know, it's a lease, and as long as, you know, we're on good terms, I'm sure we'll be able to resolve any.
That's why we got the draft in front of everybody tonight and have it on there, and just let us know.
It's not up for approval tonight, it's
No,
all just up for review.
just
so-
review, that's right.
Plenty of chance to look it over.
Yep.
And that's, we posted on the website for anybody who wants to see it too?
Yeah, it's right now it's on the website, yes.
Good. So it's in part of the packet?
Yes, it is.
Yes. The only thing I want to add, Tim and Sam, as we talked before, you know, we got lots of other parkland if you're interested in leasing more of it, doing these wonderful things. I know I'm willing to listen, and I think probably the rest of the board here is willing to entertain options as well.
Well, you know, this is, I mean, you know,
We need more partnerships, not less.
I teach economics, so I believe in economies of scale, and this is, I think in many respects, kind of the next logical step from kind of the grant program, right? I think the grant program has been successful, but one of the things that some of the grant applicants have recognized is, you know, it's hard if you don't have a dedicated Parks and Rec department to say, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Roxanne, with, you know, you can't just, it's not just having a person, there's stuff, right? There's a lot more that goes on. It's like, oh, you know, we'll do this, and well, who's going to be responsible for it, right? Who's going to call the contractor when they don't show up, right? You know, who's going to make sure it's ADA accessible, right? And we take care of a bunch of that stuff in the grant app, but you know, that was kind of the first step. This in many ways is the next step. I would guess that once this thing happens, there'll be a line of municipalities wanting a splash pad. But what I've always said is it's really kind of up to municipalities to come to us with a proposal. I don't ever want people to think that, well, you know, Parks and Rec is trying to take over, right? Because, I mean, you know how social media works, right? You know, I mean, it'll be John Rayburn is trying to create a fiefdom of parks, right? Take over Alma's parks. And, you know, save our parks. You just see the signs, right? Save our parks. The county's going to take over our parks. Put windmills on them.
Thank you.
You welcome.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're in the middle of your
Yep.
report, so is there more?
That's it. That's it.
That's everything?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the report before we receive it? I hear none, so all those in favor of receiving the city manager's report, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? No? Motion is carried, thank you. Next on our list is appropriations. Is there any interest in paying the bills this evening?
Move to pay the appropriations.
Support.
A motion support. Any questions on those bills? I hear none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? No. Motion is carried. Thank you. Commissioner comments. Danny, you want to lead off tonight?
Nothing else, thank you.
Okay. Roxanne.
My apologies for being late. You guys footed it through a lot of stuff in about 2 minutes. And thanks to Sarah and her team. I mean, they really do an excellent job and explain thoroughly what should be done. So, and nothing else.
Hey, Roger.
If you do not have plans to see the kids play this coming weekend you're just wrong. You need to see it. It's amazing. You may want to say more about it, Drew, but it's,
Well,
You-
saw there's a lot of physical choreography or.
yes, choreography
yeah.
is unbelievable, costuming is unbelievable. This is not what you think of as a normal kid's play. And there are references to, how many other plays? 40?
Yeah, I think well over that.
Yeah, just mention a little Easter egg kind of thing for it. But you're gonna forget you're watching kids. Amazing. 8 to 18 and 43 out, I think.
43.
Go see it.
It's a full stage. Okay. Sonia?
Nothing for me.
Michelle?
Come out to Elmo Live on Saturday night, Wright Park from 7 to 10. Julian pianos. It'll be a fun night. And thank you, Sarah, for everything.
Drew?
Yeah, thank you to Tim for the presentation today and for being a champion for this project too. I think this is one of the more exciting projects that have come in front of us and something that I know a lot of residents have been very supportive of for a number of years and been asking about, so it's exciting to see. But yeah, 2 great opportunities for entertainment this weekend. The kids play downtown, Something Rotten, which we saw in Stratford, my family, and this way, maybe not quite at the Stratford level, but it's like that close. It's like that close. So close. And Elmo Live on Saturday, and one of the most fun nights of the summer in Elma. So hope everyone comes out to both of those.
Very good. Sarah?
Okay, thank you.
Eric?
Awesome.
Anything else?
Nope, nothing else.
Okay, and I would just add my thanks to Sarah and your team. It takes a lot of people to put that election together, and I know how challenging it is, and the rules and the changes in the last minute, and it's quite a lot to do. So we appreciate your work, and as well as the help from the county. Doing the early voting is huge. If we all had to do that on our own, all the municipalities and entities, it would be overwhelming. So it's another partnership that we're glad to have. So. With that, we'll open it up to the members of the public. If you'd like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name and address. You'll have up to 5 minutes to share your thoughts. Would you like to go first, sir? Random stranger.
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Yeah, Les Roseanne, 889 Mill Street in Elma. I just want to back up Roger and Drew's performance. We've been to I think every children's junior, whatever they call them. This one was way above anything I've ever seen. I think part of the leads, part of it, some of the leads were a little bit older, at least they seemed to be a little bit older. I'm not sure how old, but it's well worth the cost of admission, and the fact that they put this together. That wasn't the easiest play, I'm sure. I mean, I'm just an amateur. I work most of the shows. My wife sells tickets. We support them when we can, and I have not seen a junior production anything like this one was. So if you're having any second thoughts about not going, you should change your mind if you haven't seen it already. And the other thing I have is a concern. When they did a water park or the splash pad in Shepherd, there was and I don't know what happened, but it was vandalized. I don't know if he can answer if there's any plan for a security camera, maybe that's operating when the thing's not running. And I don't know what happened in Shepherd, but I know it was vandalized and it was shut down for a period of time.
I can't. Actually, we just installed security cameras at both the parks, right? And one of the things, as we get to, that's kind of one of those detail issues, right? It's kind of like with posting signs and things like that, because it's really just a question of where does it go, who looks at it. Law enforcement will tell you, there's something to be said for just having a security camera and a sign that says you are being watched, right? That's enough of a deterrent. You'd think everybody would know now there's cameras all over the place. But the ones that we operate at the county parks actually do have, like memory. And so if something were to happen, we can go back and look at the tape and so on. But I think that is that piece, and it's
Those are reasonable, they're not big dollar.
Yeah, because we do not have, we're out in the country,
Yeah.
so we don't have like, we can't just tap into,
Internet.
the Wi-Fi from wherever, right? And so, but no, that is something that we've thought about, and like I said, that's kind of one of those detailed issues that are important, and
Well, unfortunately, the vandalism in the past, I don't think it's as bad as it was at one point, but it was pretty prevalent. It was everywhere. And it
not as
made-
bad as it was when we were kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So-
You know, just-
That's true, that's fact, I'm just telling you, that's fact.
Vandalism where the two big parks that the county has, they're out in the country. I mean, it's dark out there. And they got some stoplights, streetlights out there, and knock on wood, it's not real bad.
That's surprising, we just do not have issues, it's, now again, it's also, it's a crime of opportunity. And so it does take more work to go out to one of the county parks to wreck stuff, but,
Cars.
and that is ultimately, and it was actually a question that was asked by leadership, and that's on us, right? So somebody climbs up and busts off one of the big buckets, we're gonna pay to get it fixed. And some of that stuff happens.
As a suggestion, you might check with Shepherd and see what the damage was, because it was something underground. They poured cement or something down.
Right. I mean, in theory, if somebody really wants to wreck something, you can, but if what guided your decision to do a project was what could happen, we wouldn't have fire yet, because, you can burn yourself, and it's something, it's funny, we've talked to a lot of people, a lot of municipalities that have splash pads, and the people we talked to, nobody brought up, well, one thing you need to worry about is, we've had to replace X, Y, and Z, because I've heard the same story that you had, and I don't know when that was, but that doesn't seem to be an issue. Now I've just jinxed it, right? And so somebody's gonna drive a bulldozer through it,
I
right?
doubt the vandals are listening to our.
That's right. Taking notes. Concrete in the drain holes.
Well, I'm sure our police force is going to disclose their entire security plans, but I'm sure they'll be protective of it, as they are with other city assets, so. Appreciate that, though, thank you. Anybody else like to address the commission any further? Sam or Tim? Okay, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn this evening.
So moved.
Support.
A motion support, last chance for comments. I hear none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's passed, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.